Hello, my name is Laura Labuda, and I'm the owner of the Purple Chair and the creator of this amazing Purple Queendom. And you're listening to the Purple Chair podcast. And I'm a little nervous because usually I'm standing behind a person looking into a mirror, but right now I'm sitting behind a microphone looking into a camera. And we're going to get through this. This is new for me. So one thing that I have a lot of experience in is hair and hair color. I have about 9 years experience, but I want to first tell you about my least favorite hair color or color in general, and it's blue. And I'm going to tell you about the Great Blue Disaster. The Great Blue Disaster happened when I was wearing a pink shirt, and I was a painter in college. I went to the University of South Carolina for painting, and I was in my advanced painting class, and we could just come in and paint as we pleased. So I had this really expensive tube of blue color. I can't remember the name of the color, but it doesn't matter, because what happened is that the back of the tube opened up and I didn't know about it. And so while I was trying to squeeze it out of the front, it shot out of the back all over my shirt, all over my pink shirt. And there was blue all over me, all over my stuff. It was in my bag. Blue is the smallest color molecule and is the hardest one to get rid of. While I was in college, shortly after the Great Blue Disaster, I colored my hair blonde in the front. I kind of look like Rogue from X-Men. And I decided that I wanted to go from blonde to black. So I put a blue-black hair color over it. And that doesn't work because it turned my blonde hair blue. I turned my blonde hair blue because I thought that I was just going to go pick up a box of color, the black, and put it over my blonde hair, and it turned blue. Again, another Great Blue Disaster. So fast forward a couple of years, I've been out of cosmetology school for 6 months, and I was working on a blonde. And you know, sometimes blondes, they don't like the brassy, and you get rid of brassy with blue, my arch nemesis. And I toned her, and as I toned her, she turned into Marge Simpson. Another Great Blue Disaster. Now that you know about my Great Blue Disaster, we're going to talk about some myths and rules about hair color. But first, you need to know a little bit of color theory magic. There are 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, and they cannot be created by any other color. They just kind of exist on their own. And when you mix them together, you get secondary colors. Just like when you mix red and blue, you get purple. When you mix red and yellow, you get orange. And when you mix blue and yellow, you get green. So those are your secondary colors. And then after that, you can mix a primary and a secondary to get a tertiary color. And like I said, when I turned my customer into Marge Simpson, I was trying to get rid of the brassiness, which is orange. That's like the 4-letter word you don't say in a hair salon, by going across the color wheel to use blue. So that's its complementary color. So if you are a blonde that doesn't like yellow in their hair, then you're going to go across the color wheel and pick up something with purple in it, or violet. That's why violet and purple shampoos and blue shampoos are very popular. And so knowing the laws of color, then you can go into understanding the lightness or darkness of your hair. So if you are an artist, that's your tints and values. But in the hair color world, we use the level system, and 1 being black and the darkest color, all the way up to 10 being the lightest, blondest color. So those are your levels. It goes 1 through 10. And the structure of your hair is very important. So the level system goes 1 through 10. And that's the lightness or darkness of your hair. I already said all that, but I said it better before I said it now. And so it also makes in thinking about the color theory and the level system, you also have to take in consideration the structure of your hair. And your hair is built like a straw. There is a cuticle layer on the outside, and it opens like shingles on a roof. And I'll get to that in just a minute. There's a cortex layer, which is like the center of the straw. So if you can imagine a straw layered with shingles, the actual straw itself would be the cortex layer, and then in the center is the medulla, and it's an air sac, air pathway that has absolutely nothing to do with hair, so we're just not even going to bother with it. The cuticle layer gives about 20% of the strength to the hair, and it opens and closes based on pH. So when you're using your shampoos, when you're using your conditioners, and especially when you're using hair color. And in the cortex, this is where the elasticity of your hair, so this is about 80% of the strength of your hair. And this is where the melanin of your color pigments live. And there's two types of color pigments, and these are your underlying pigments. Eumelanin is red blonde, and Eumelanin is not red blonde. Eumelanin is dark brown to black, and pheomelanin is blonde to red. So if you've ever put lightener on your hair and it's come up into an orange, that's you exposing the underlying pigment in your hair. So when I'm lightening someone's hair and they come up either to like an orange or a blonde, that's when we can utilize the laws of color and go across the color map and neutralize. But there's types of hair color, and the way hair color works is, I know that with my great blue hair disaster on myself, when I went to the store and bought a box of color, it's like mixing A and B. Sorry, I bumped your microphone. A and B, and you mix them together and shake it up and put it on your hair and hope for the best. But in a salon setting, you're mixing the color pigment with a developer. So in the cortex layer of your hair, that's where your melanin lives, the pigment and the underlying pigments that live in your hair. And there's two types. Pheomelanin, which is that red to blonde, and eumelanin, which is black and dark brown. So if you've ever put lightener on your hair or bleach and it comes up this crazy orange color, you're exposing those underlying pigments in your hair, and then you can cross the color map and neutralize or get rid of unwanted tones with your complement. And hair color is made of ammonia, color pigment, and developer. I feel like I'm missing something there. But there are different types of hair color, and that's really what I want to talk about, is the different types of hair color. There are 4 types of hair color. Temporary hair color, those are your really fun colors that only last a shampoo. So anything that's like hair chalk, anything that coats the outside of the hair to change the hair color, those sprays, those are your temporary hair colors. And they shampoo out very easily. And then sometimes I even get confused between semis and demis. Semi-permanent hair color is the colors that you can just squeeze out of a tube. Also fun hair color, but you can squeeze it out of a tube and just put it on, and it lasts about 4 to 6 shampoos. So any of my vivid unicorn colored girls, they are semi-permanent. And then demi-permanent goes in just a little bit deeper. So when I was talking about the cuticle layer, the temporary color lives like on top of the cuticle layer. Then semi the color molecule is so small that it can kind of slip inside a little bit. And that can also be used for toning. And demi-permanent kind of goes in a little bit further And semis and demis tend to be ammonia free, so it cannot lift. It can only deposit. And by deposit, it's just going and laying on top and just inside the cuticle. And permanent hair color there's a lot of misconception with permanent hair color, thinking that permanent means lasting forever. But permanent does not mean permanent in that sense in hair color. There's ammonia in permanent hair color, so that's used to lift that cuticle. And what happens is that as the cuticle is being lifted, the color molecule is going inside, slipping into that cortex layer, and permanently removing your natural pigment. It goes in, it gets rid of it, and is replaced by the new permanent color molecule. And this is your gray coverage. And whoops, my brain went blank. So you will get some fadage on permanent hair color, and the reason it fades, and I know a lot of reds fade quickly, what's fading is actually the color that's trapped in just slightly inside the cuticle and on top. Do you want to know what makes me cringy? This is something that makes me cringy. Silver hair color. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, because in certain cases it's totally doable and it's totally possible. Some people have taken a year to get to silver hair color. And there's a couple of things that I learned the hard way about it. It's even making my blood pressure go up right now thinking about silver hair color. And I love it, and I've done it, and I have some friends that have the most gorgeous silver hair color. But if you want true silver, just let nature take its course. Some people are meant to have it, and some people are not. And the magic behind the silver is that you have to have as natural hair as possible. And I don't mean natural color. I mean, like, you have to be the unicorn that doesn't put any hair color on their hair for like a year. That's how I wound up with silver hair. I was patient, and I waited, and I let my hair grow. Now, like I said, hair color, permanent hair color goes in and permanently removes your natural pigment. So now it's replaced with artificial pigment. Oh, hey. Now it's replaced with artificial pigment. And artificial pigment is a whole nother beast. So when you're lifting artificial pigment with lightener, because I don't say bleach, we're not bleaching hair, we're lightening hair, I can only lift you 2 levels at a time, maybe 3 levels at a time. And that's if you're lucky. And you have to take care of your hair in between, because your hair is not invincible. It will literally turn into mush. Side note, I wanted to know what that mush felt like. So I covered my dolly head while I was in school. And I covered her with lightener. I covered my dolly head with lightener while I was in school. I put her in a plastic bag, and I put her in my locker for 4 days. And 4 days later, I came back. I pulled her out, and all of her hair was at the bottom of the bag. She had no hair. So I'm going to caution you with the silver hair color. I can feel my heart beating really fast. I don't mean to be like super uppity about this. But there are some people that are a perfect candidate, and there are some people that are not. And I had somebody who was stuck at a level 8, and I could not get past that level 8. And you have to have that 10 plus white blonde hair, which you're taking it to the brink of disaster and then kind of toning it back just a little bit just to make it look silver. For it to be silver for 2 shampoos, 3 shampoos. And then it's tricky because you have a little bit of blue and you have a little bit of purple, and finding the right combination to make it work is really difficult. But I did a silver hair last night. Her starting level was a level 8. So 10 being the blonde, light blonde. So she already came in naturally at a level 8. So that means I only had to lift her 2 levels naturally. And to get her into that really, really blonde, to be able to put a silver look to her. And I'm so excited to work at a time like in 2020 to have products that I can use to make it a little easier on myself. Because when I started down this silver hair trend thing, these things weren't around. So you had to kind of make it up and use a drop of 1B and 10 ounces of clear to make it kind of like super light blue. And yeah, I don't mean to make this whole thing about cringy things that make me crazy, but my blondes and my reds, anyone who's a redhead, like, has to be blonde too. And then they have to go back to red, and then they have to go back to blonde. And it's really hard to change up the hair color. So you know what? This is a little secret I think I'm about to share. I don't always use permanent color on people because I know the people that want to change their hair color a lot. So if you're a redhead that kind of likes blonde sometimes and a blonde that likes red sometimes, I don't make a permanent change because I know that I have to get back through it at some point in your hair life. And you probably want long hair, and do not put any of this in there because I sound like a crazy person. So often people ask me, how do I take care of my hair color? And I'm like, it's not about the hair color. It's about the health and integrity of your hair. So let's think back to that cuticle layer opening and closing. It's like the gatekeeper. Like if it's open, your hair color is going to come flying out. If it's closed, your hair color is going to stay nice and tucked in. And shampoo makes a difference. And I'll tell you, if you're investing in a hair color that's $150 plus $200, why are you going to go buy $5 shampoo? Like, when you have the right shampoo that's made to go with your color, it's like having insurance, and your color's going to last so much longer. So back to the shampoo part. So when you're shampooing, the pH of the shampoo is going to open the cuticle. And that's okay because it needs to go in and clean out the dirts and the oils. And then when you condition, it closes it back down. So if you have a conditioner that makes your hair feel really greasy and oily, it's not the right one for you. So as it closes back down, what you're feeling is that cuticle closed and smooth, and it's able to reflect the light. That's what makes your hair shiny. And when you have hair color, you're chemically treating your hair. So you're breaking down the strength, you're breaking down the strength of your hair, the elasticity of your hair. Your hair can become brittle. So there's a fine balance between using products that have a protein in them, because your hair is a protein, too much and not enough. And if you feel one hair on your head, see, this is why a video is fun. I'm gonna pull the hair out. Can I do that? So this hair grows like this. This is literally one hair off of my head. If you slide your fingers down one way, you cannot feel the cuticle. If you flip it over and slide your fingers down the other way, you can feel it and you can hear it. It's like squeaky. Also, you can take it and stretch it, and it's like a little rubber band. I'm from Pittsburgh. We call it a gum band. Oh, and it just broke. That means that my elasticity, my hair is a little bit weak because I color my hair a lot. I'm a hair colorist. But when your hair is wet, you need to be very gentle with it. So if you're a blonde, that lightener takes a lot of toll on your hair. And your hair can stretch up to 50% more when it's wet. So be very gentle with your hair while it's wet. And use the right shampoo and the right conditioner and the right products that we suggest. Now you know the importance of taking care of your hair and the health of your hair. We have a whole line of products here at the Purple Chair that could help you. And we'll talk about them in another podcast coming up real soon. Thank you so much for sticking with me on my very first episode of the Purple Chair podcast. I really appreciate it. And if you want to keep up with what's going on around my Purple Kingdom, you can follow the Purple Chair on Facebook and Instagram, or me, Laura Labuda, on Instagram at Laura Cuts Hair, because Laura cuts hair in a purple chair.